For almost 2 decades, Somalia suffered from a long and perpetual civil war, which has left the country physically and socially devastated, and the economy had virtually ground to a halt. Somaliland unilaterally declared the restoration of its independence from Somalia in 1991. Although unrecognized by the rest of the world, it has successfully established an administration that is locally reliable and maintained peace and stability among its society. Since the civil war demolished the country's economic resources, the newly formed administration had very limited financial capacity to provide the citizens with basic human needs such as health, education, water and sanitation services. As well, the persistence of droughts in the region was merely attributed to the climate changes which affected thousands of nomadic pastoralists and farmers. In 1991, Action Aid was among the first international humanitarian organizations that had the courage to work and assist the Somaliland's communities despite the harsh conditions at that time. This film will highlight the progress of the one-year project that was implemented by Action Aid Somaliland. The project aimed at improving the lives of the poorest and marginalized rural communities, particularly in Gebile and Alay Bade districts, through the 3 main interventions: enhancement of the technical skills of the farmers, strengthening of the local networks, and increasing of the agricultural production. The project was funded by the Italian Development Cooperation through Action Aid Italy.
This project was targeting to the most vulnerable households in Gebile region. That's why the project is named after improving the food security of poor households in Gebile region. So in a way, this project was just intended to promote the food security status of the community, as well as equip farmers with knowledge and skills.
21 rural communities that have been practicing small-scale farming since the 90s were identified as intervention areas in Gebile and Alay Bade districts. Irregular climate change, unregulated land grabbing, and spiking food prices have encouraged most of these agro-pastoralists to grow maize or sorghum in average land of 2 acres twice a year in rain-fed farms and depend mainly on traditional shallow wells that don't have concrete structure. During their rainy season, flood water collapses the wells of the wells filling it with sand, so the farmers had to re-excavate the wells at least twice a year. The project beneficiaries were approximately 1,050 households chosen among the poorest and marginalized ones. During the first phase of the project, Action Aid provided a series of trainings for farmers who lacked the capacity in terms of increasing cultivation areas.
We have given farmers for 8 trainings, and most of these trainings were concerning agriculture sector. For example, we have provided training on climate change and air awareness system to equip farmers' knowledge and skills so that they can tackle with the recurrent climatic change in the region. We also provided a training on commercialization and marketing. So farmers, we give them skills and knowledge concerning marketing, just to increase their knowledge, their consciousness concerning selling their products. Because nowadays, most of the farmers, they lost their production because of they don't know how to sell, how to market.
Each training has its own objectives and ultimate impacts on the livelihoods of the farmers. Trainees were acquainted with ranges of skills such as management of natural resources, pest and disease control, marketing, and agricultural irrigation techniques. As a result of these activities, the knowledge of agricultural and trade skills were increased for farmers. Also, the percent of women who attended the training increased gradually. 43% of the trainees were female, while 57% were from the male farmers.
With these trainings, my knowledge of increasing the production of crops has been improved. For example, we used to grow sorghum and beans only, but recently we grow different crops such as tomatoes, onion, and sesame. In the past, our farmers were productive for one season. However, after participating in the Action Aid trainings, we grew seasonal crops throughout the year.
In order to move from subsistence to market-oriented production and to increase the incomes of the farmers to improve their living standards and enhance their level of food security, Action Aid, through this project, had successfully constructed 26 shallow wells across 6 villages, 3 sand dams had also been constructed, and 12 earth dams were completed.
This dam was damaged by floods, but as you can see, it has been repaired by Action Aid. Therefore, the dam has more capacity to accumulate more rainwater. We expect from Action Aid to maximize the size of the dam in order to use it during the drought season for both human and livestock.
To ensure consistency and local ownership, the community had contributed to the construction and costs associated with the excavation of the shallow wells. In addition to that, 27 water pumps, 21 pipes, and 32 spray pumps were given to 32 irrigation and rain-fed farmers to boost the production and income of the farmers.
The process of excavating water is very costly and requires more time, nearly 1 year. Sometimes it happens that the flood water collapses the walls of the well, filling it with sand, so I had to restart the process again.
Additionally, more than 160 inhabitants have benefited from the project indirectly, either by accessing drinking water for human or livestock, while others borrow the distributed equipment from their neighbours for irrigation purposes. Traditional tiling methods, such as using oxen or hiring tractors, discourage the farmers to increase their crop production. Therefore, Action Aid delivered to the farming communities materials like 957 tractor hours and 814 kilograms of drought-resistant, fast-maturation seed varieties, such as maize and sorghum, to maximize the production yield, as well as sustain food security among people living in poverty, especially rain-fed farmers. For the irrigated farms, seed varieties such as onion, cabbage, tomato, beetroot, and carrot were also distributed. In line with the third intervention of strengthening the local networking, Action Aid empowered pre-existed 5 farmer associations and established 20 others. These associations are gender responsive, whereby women comprise almost half of the population. Therefore, a total of 455 farmers are registered in these associations, of which 49% represent women and the remaining 51% represent male farmers. The progress made by this project allowed farmers to harvest enough irrigation crops and vegetables throughout the year. Also, 50% of their production increased due to the trainings provided and physical materials and equipment. In the next rainy season, farmers pledged to cultivate their land without relying on the support given by Action Aid, and will budget some amount to the payment of tractor hours to avoid dependency and sustain the project deliverables.